Albert Einstein, strive not to be a success, but rather to be of value. Albert Einstein.
What's up, everybody? This is Darren and Jessica Salquist coming at you from Next Level.
Good vibes only.
Today, we're going to be talking about
passion, purpose, and leadership during doing work that matters.
Doing work that matters.
Yeah,
Nice.
that really coincides with, making life a masterpiece. But we're going to bring in, basically how to bring some passion back into the work you do.
Yeah, and that would be anything that you do for any job that you went out and applied for and said, I am going to be the best employee, or I'm going to be the best at what I do for you.
That's right.
And for me.
Like Albert Einstein said, is be of value. If you're focusing on being successful, will that diminish the quality of your value? And if you strive to be valuable rather than successful, I wonder how much more actual success that will actually bring you.
Yeah, and the definition of success, right? Some people identify success as money or wealth, right? Just versus being a good person and being the best that you can be at what you do. Not about the dollar that you get paid, not about the car you drive. That's not success, right? It's about really your job. I mean, really about your role, what you do, you as a person, not your job. You as a person. That's success.
Yeah. And we're today with that talking about how to bring more passion and purpose into your work, not by chasing just a dream job in itself, but by building rare skills, finding that intrinsic, we talk about that a lot, intrinsic motivation, and contributing to something bigger than yourself. So some of what we gathered today was some of Cal Newport's work. So good, they can't ignore you. And then we've got some material from Conscious Capitalism, and that's from Mackey and Sisodia. So basically some of it is talking about, a couple of the concepts that we are talking about is skills before passion and redefining your passion at work, which I've got some good relational stories about that. And then this intrinsic motivation, the fuel for passion itself, and then work as service. So being able to look at that bigger picture and being able to really bring that passion and purpose back into the work that you do. And like you mentioned, bring it back into life in general. Mm-hmm. It's not just about the job, but I am in a leadership role. And I want to talk more about the work I do in general because I'm learning so much every single day. And I'm not only learning about the work I'm doing, but I'm also learning about myself. And we don't all get the luxury of loving every moment of your job. There's still going to be hard times, there are going to be challenges, but how do you find the passion and the growth and the love in what you do? And what I've realized in the work that I'm doing is there's so much of it that I love. There's also so much of it that is very energy depleting. At the same time, when I'm feeling down and out about my job and the work that I do, is because I forgot and I lacked bringing the passion in of the things that bring me the most joy and the most passion. Mm-hmm. So that was something that I tested out in the last couple months, and it was pretty successful. So I'll end with that story, maybe about the success of bringing passion back into the work that I do.
You're going to end with that? I
think it's a good finale. What would you like? I could start. And
I think it'd be, people will be curious on the journey, and that's where kind of go into this path, like what you're saying, that, when we are in this role, in this position, this again, I'm going to call it the job. I don't really feel that our job is our purpose. Like, that's my view of purpose is me as an individual. My purpose is to be the best version of me possible. Mm-hmm. And then whatever our role I play in society, and how do I bring that to help serve others in that way, right? And so in my career of doing many different things, from construction to now, working in the health field, I worked for Pepsi for a little while, delivering, I was in sales and delivering Pepsi. And, I got to, bring those things to play at one time. And then when I moved into the health field, working as a physical therapist assistant, and then getting into management, being able to serve in that way. And I got to learn a lot about myself and my passion and my drive. And then now what I do now as a mental performance coach and a personal trainer, it's just we have many different jobs, right? That wasn't my purpose. All those different roles weren't my purpose, but my purpose was to show up as the best version of me in that role that I was playing.
Yeah, in all of that experience that you had, and there were purposeful moments of life to get you where you're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think all of those experiences allowed you to really find even more joy in what you're doing now. Like you're bringing passion into the work you're doing. Before, with your other jobs, maybe it was a little more challenged to find that passion. And we've talked about that too. Is like, how do you bring in that passion in the work that you do so that you can bring in joy?
Yeah.
It is about joy. There does need to be some intrinsic motivation for the work that we do in some manner, for us to find that joy. And I don't really want to focus like on balance, because balance doesn't mean that we are steadfast, standing, grounded like a tree, you know. I always think of, when I say the balance, I want to say you're walking on a tightrope. You're constantly ebbing and flowing, and that's the flow of life. And sometimes you're just a little more stable, and sometimes you're a little more wobblier. Is that a word? I'm not sure. Sometimes you wobble more, but at the same time, that's when I think of balance, I think of tightrope.
Yeah, and when you bring up balance, it's just, I was thinking the book that we listened to yesterday on our drive called Off Balance, and talking about, do you want a balanced life? You want that work-life balance, or do you want a life that is that you feel satisfied with?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, like, I always hear work-life balance, but it's really about, you want a life that you feel satisfied that you've lived. And so what does that look like? So I think that might be a good conversation that we get into at another time.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm talking about the difference between work-life balance and a life that you feel satisfied that you lived.
Yeah, we could go on about that. So bringing it back to that quote by Albert Einstein, is the value. When I do work, I want to bring value to the work that I do. I want to bring meaning to the work I do, and I want others to value also what I'm doing. So I don't want to spend a lot of time places where I'm not bringing in value to anyone, right? We could probably spin the wheel and do the whole rigmarole thing where we're just coming to work, doing our basics, you know, and how much value are we bringing other than we dotted our I's and we crossed our T's. So talking about that skill before passion, this is one thing that I was interested in when I was looking at it. It was like, really develop a really great skill. So then what happens is you become passionate about it. And we kind of mentioned this the other day on our drive too, is that, how do you know what you like if you don't try a bunch of things and give yourself the opportunity to know what you're really passionate about? So redefining that passion at work. And Cal says that he challenges the idea of following your passion. Instead, passion often follows mastery and contribution. And I was kind of wanting to break that down a little bit to really understand it, but also to be able to bring some meaning to it. So I'm going to say it again. So he's challenging the idea of following your passion and letting that lead you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, passion often follows mastery and contribution. So he's saying building rare and valuable skills makes you indispensable and gives you freedom to share your career. So what do you think about that? Is instead of having you follow the passion, the passion would follow your mastery and contribution, value.
It's something when I think about, like, when people go from high school to college right away and go after this career, to think that you're going to do this one job for the rest of your life. Like, when you go after the degree,
mm-hmm.
and versus, like, you and I have both been on different journeys. Even your schooling got you into the position that you're in, but it's in a different role, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've gone through this journey, and same thing with me, going from, again, construction, working at Pepsi, and then going into being a physical therapist assistant and getting my bachelor's degree in business and becoming a manager, and then now being a personal trainer and life coach, where finding your passion, taking all those things that you've learned in life, these life experiences, and following your bliss and finding the joy in life.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it might not just be in that one role that you thought when you're 19 years of age or even younger that, hey, I'm going to do this job for the rest of my life. It could be many different roles and different challenges of once you get into it, you might find that you love it and you're going to continue to grow and be the best that you can be in that position. But there's other times I think people get stuck in this position or because of their degree, like, well, I mean, I spent all this money on school and now I'm in this position and maybe this is what I'm going to get stuck doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then they don't enjoy what they do.
Yeah.
They don't bring the joy of life, the joy of what they first had when they first got into that career. And how can you get that back? And that's, again, exploring with what you're talking
mm-hmm.
about right now, finding the joy. What can you do within the role that you are in right now and be the best version of you and bring the best version of you to that position so you can find the joy?
Yeah. And I look at it as, you know, there are a lot of mundane jobs out there. I mean, I did assembly line jobs when I was younger.
Mm.
I did a lot of things and really working on how not to go a little insane doing the same thing over and over again. But what could I have done? Like, I didn't have this mindset then. So what could have I done at that moment? I was around people, you know, what could have I done to bring a little bit more like, hey, look at this as what skill am I developing and how can I utilize this and make connection and be able to find something to be intrinsically motivated, which that's our next topic that we'll talk about what I was doing. But I was young, and it was something.
It was a role at that moment.
It was a role,
yeah.
and it was like I can't wait till the shift is over.
Needed some income. There's a job that's open.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, some of us get into that role, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of us are just, what I need is a job. I need to bring in money right now to pay for things, and I'm gonna go look for a job. And then sometimes we end up in that position for a long time.
Yep.
And sometimes happy, sometimes not happy. Sometimes we feel stuck. Sometimes, you know, maybe we can get unstuck.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the challenge I would be is to be the best at no matter what your role is and whatever that may be, is that you're showing up as your best because it's you.
Mm-hmm.
It's your life. You're the director. You're the driver, and you're the captain of your own ship.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
you get to decide on how you show up to the circumstances that are coming your way.
Yeah.
Whether that job is challenging, whether you have difficult employees, maybe you feel your boss is challenging, maybe you're not finding a lot of reward in that position. With that being said, what are you capable of? What can you do in that moment? And it might be that you do explore other things
right.
and find other opportunities. And it might mean that you go to school while you're working. I think a lot of people are afraid to move in that direction. And then there's a quote that goes like, people are afraid of hard work. People are afraid of hard work because it's dressed up in overalls or something like that. I'm not saying that quote 100% right, but it's one of those things. And I've been there. I've been in that thought before about going on with school. It's like, I don't want to do any more school, you know,
Mm-hmm.
when I was in that position at St. Luke's and getting my bachelor's, like, do I need to get my master's now? Is that what I want to do? But now I think I would, if that was a role, because I'd go into leadership because I found my passion.
Yeah.
I found what drives me and makes me happy is that opportunity.
Proving my point.
Yeah, I know, exactly.
You're proving the point of that. You develop skill throughout all of your experiences, whether they're like jobs that you want to do forever or part of your life, but those skills compound and then they actually lead you to your passion.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that part of it because you want to bring more passion and purpose into your work, but also celebrating all of the things and the skills and the pathways that got you to exactly where you're at, which leads us into intrinsic motivation. But I want to leave with one thing because I want to ask a question to the audience of when you're looking at skills before passion and redefining passion at work, one of the questions you can ask yourself is where in your current work could you be doubling down on skill building so that you become so good they can't ignore you. And that's Cal Newport, which that's what his book is called. So where can you double down on skill building? Even if it's a job that you're not super satisfied with right now, but how would you develop some skills for that for your next journey, your next experience? So intrinsic motivation, the fuel for passion. So true passion is tied to autonomy, mastery, and purpose, echoing both Newport and the self-determination theory. Leaders thrive when they are intrinsically motivated, driven not by external rewards, but by growth, curiosity, and service. So true passion tied to autonomy. In my role that I'm in, everybody wants autonomy. People love to have mastery and to have purpose. I see that all the time, and I can relate to that absolutely too. And that we know research shows that intrinsically motivated, it's much more empowering than external motivator, even though sometimes people think, well, if they just paid me more, I would feel more valuable. And part of that too is I internally reflect on that is, would more money make me more satisfied in the work that I do? More than likely not. Again, now that I'm saving my story to the end, because we didn't say it, is I will share that story of how bringing passion into my work of the things that I love to do from all of the skills that I've developed before, and how I got to that moment in time. And it's just one moment in time. It's just one experience I had, one story, but being able to reflect on it and actually see point A to point B to point C, see my actions create an outcome, which is awesome. So when you talk about intrinsic motivation, which, like I said earlier, we've talked about that quite a bit. It's examples are like a leader who carves out 90 minutes each day for deep, meaningful work versus being stuck in shallow tasks.
Yeah, no, I used to be extrinsic in looking at goals and money and things that I wanted to buy. And definitely I still have some of those things that I look for. Although with that being said, it's more intrinsic now for me, of the self-development and being that best version of myself. And then it kind of goes with, as I'm reading on this sheet that we have of Tom Morris, the individual that we had on our podcast, very early on in our stages of launching our podcast that we do here. And he wrote a book called True Success. And here's how he puts it. The kind of success I am most interested in is the sort that is available to every human being living, breathing, thinking, and doing things on this earth. It does not require wealth, fame, power, or high social status. It needs not involve aspiring to any of these things, but it does require making the most of what we are for the benefit of others as well as ourselves. It means making a difference and experiencing the deep satisfaction that brings it. It means using your talents and following your heart. It involves being true to yourself and being good to others. And that's kind of where I'm at. I mean, that's what my goal is. I think what true success is if I have the capability of inspiring others to move in the direction that they want to be better, that's what I want to leave, you know? It's not about being the wealthiest man on earth or having all these trinkets that, you know, again, there's no trailer hearse a hearse doesn't have a trailer hitch attached to it, right? All those belongings that people are buying and striving for, they're going to be somebody else's someday. Enjoy them while you can. But when you're on this earth, what people are going to remember is you, who you are, how you showed up. And that's something I've been working on for a while, because I've said it in the past that my tombstone, I always thought that, you know, Darren was a nice guy, but he was an asshole too. And I don't want to be an asshole anymore.
You're not. So the question to the audience is, what is one activity in your day that feels intrinsically rewarding? What's something you can pull out of your day that is rewarding, and how can you carve out more time for it? So find one moment that feels rewarding and create more time. I feel like I'm building up the story like it's the best story in the whole world, but every one of these questions is like, I can answer it, right? I can answer this question.
Want to give an example?
Well, the part of it is that intrinsically rewarding part is, I think sometimes we wait for people to knock on our door when we know we have skills and talents and say, I want you to show your skill and talent. And when they don't, we get the imposter syndrome, you have doubt, like all these things, and you'll just tuck it. All these things that you've been practicing and experiencing and wanting to do and wanting to practice. And practice is great. We just get better at what we do. So part of that is like, no one's going to knock on that door. You might, you hear the stories where walking down the road and someone's like, whoa, you should be a model. Like you hear those stories all the time. Believe me, I wish somebody knocked on my door and said something. But so the part of it is creating that space yourself, carving out more time for it. And to carve out more time for it, you have to be okay with being a little uncomfortable and asking to be able to carve that time out. If you have control of your schedule, are you time blocking times to carve those things out? Are you asking to be, added to meetings or different things that you can learn more? If it's a skill, like we talked about the last question, double down on the skill building. If you want to learn something, tell somebody, research, resource, communicate, network. People can't read your mind. We talk about that in relationships. No one can read your mind. You got to be clear, concise. People are busy. Yeah. If you think people are just waiting to develop you, you got another thing coming.
Yeah.
So
you got to be your biggest advocate.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's how, and when I was at St. Luke's, or even when I was at Pepsi, I started in the warehouse throwing, building pallets for the trucks, and I wanted to get into sales. And that's when I started applying for positions saying, hey, I want to be a salesperson. What do I need to do? What do I need to learn? And I got into that sales route. And then when I worked at St. Luke's and I was a physical therapist assistant, I wanted to get into a management role. And they said, oh, you're not qualified. You don't meet these requirements. And I didn't let that stop me.
No.
I kept working at it. I let them know what I wanted to do. And eventually I became a manager.
Was that when you worked at Pepsi, didn't they always say, better have your resume.
Yeah, that's what drove me to get my degree and become a physical therapist assistant, because although I didn't think they were talking to me, because I felt I was a valuable employee. I did the work. I put in the hours, and I wasn't afraid of hard work. But I just didn't like that attitude. That was the wrong type of leadership to tell your employees that keep your resume ready, because there's 10 people that that would take your job. And that's true, especially a job like Pepsi, right? It was a well-paying job. And didn't need a degree for it, and you can work your way up. That's what's awesome about certain organizations, that you have that ability to work your way up. But when they use that mentality of a threat, nobody likes to be threatened.
Yeah.
And so you lose a lot of good employees that way. So I think the goal is, how do you build these individuals up and support them and help them grow, especially the ones that are challenging.
Help them see their passion in the work they do. I mean, it is a lot of time and effort to focus on someone else's development when you focus on your own too. But in the midst of that, if you're looking at your staff's strengths and the things that they do well, and you hone in on them, and you help them bring that passion. They know their passion. Are you having those conversations with staff about what are they passionate about? What do you want to know? What do you want to do? I'm not going to do their work for them, but I'm certainly going to open the door for them.
And this is, if you're going there, this is the process of leadership. I have conversations with them. Oh, what do you do? How do you help people, grow into leadership? Oh, I have a couple of people that we look at, and if they're in leadership roles, we do this. What about those individuals, those everyday individuals that are coming in, clocking out? What about them? How do you build them up as leaders? Because you don't need the title of a leader to be a leader. Right?
Nope.
You're a leader, number one, of your own life. And if you're not leading your life well, how would you lead anything else well? And so I think that's the thing that's important, and something that I want to do with the workshops and with the corporate business that I want to develop is create these workshops, because workshops are much more interactive. People don't want to be talked to. They want to have interaction and work with each other, build community, build unity with others. See that others are going through the same struggles. And then how do we help them lead their own lives, so when they do show up to work, that they enjoy what they do? This is that attitude that I get to go to work today, not that I have to go to work today. And then not only just at work, but what about at home? Mm-hmm. What about their life when they get home, that they're able to show up there as well for their family, for their loved ones, or even for their pets? Whatever it is that they have, it's not just work. It's outside of that work. And if you can create those individuals to be better there as well, you're going to have a great organization.
Passion and purpose. All right, last topic is work as service, conscious capitalism, and the bigger picture. So there's a book, it's called Conscious Capitalism, but it teaches that businesses and leaders thrive when they operate from a higher purpose, serving all stakeholders, which a stakeholder, if you do not know, is pretty much everyone.
Everybody that's in your facility, from the person that's cleaning
public,
it to
the employees, the customer, communities, environment, like that is your stakeholder. That is everyone and beyond, you know? So passion grows when your work connects to something larger than yourself. So you're talking about like a local leader who prioritizes team well-being over short-term profits, creating loyalty and impact. You have businesses and other companies also, like Patagonia is aligning business with environmental sustainability and those kind of things like that. But work as service. We talk a lot about also service to others, and that's super important. I wouldn't have gotten my master's in social work if I didn't feel that was important. And that's one of those beautiful, another skill that I got to develop because I was passionate at that time that I wanted to pursue it. I didn't go to school, right? You know, I got my bachelor's, took some time off, and then went back to school. So I'm glad I took time off to develop the passion and purpose of what I wanted to do. And that was something that was decided. At the same time, is finding your passion and purpose does not always mean you have to get a degree or go to get your master's, but that was my journey. So part of that in itself is just asking yourself, how does your work or how could your work contribute to something beyond yourself? And those are okay conversations to have with your leadership. And it's okay to self-reflect on that, to understand how your work or how could your work contribute to something beyond yourself. Most businesses have mission statements, purpose statements, values, different things that you can look at and connect to. Do you find yourself or see yourself within those visions or mission statements for the work you do? And if you don't have one, create your own. Create your own mission statement of why you're doing what you're doing, and ask the questions. Be curious and find out if there's something that your work can do to contribute to something beyond yourself. Because we're here, right? We're little specks in the sand. We were just looking at our friends' wedding pictures, and they had this beautiful photo of them from a drone. And it just reminded us we're just specks of the sand, you know, and how do we contribute? So finding your passion in your work isn't about just chasing the perfect job. It's about building skills, nurturing intrinsic motivation, and aligning with the higher purpose. And when you become so good they can't ignore you, and when your work connects to something bigger than yourself, passion and purpose stop being the buzzword. They become your daily fuel. So, Story time.
Story time.
I'll make this quick. So the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is because, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's just something that was intrinsically connected to me and my motivation of the work I do. Some of the work that I do can be challenging, and I am a human, and I also get burnt out sometimes, and I kind of get into a little bit of a victim mode, and popping out of it usually takes work, takes a little work. I get a little overwhelmed, and I think I'm not pursuing what my dream is, right? Just like what we talked about. It's not about pursuing the dream, but how do you impact the people that you are currently working with, knowing that you still can have all the things you want at some point in time. So I was getting a little bogged down in some of the daily tasks and the daily grind, and I decided that I needed some more passion. So I asked to be able to present to about 40 leaders within my company, and the answer was yes. And I gave some topics, and I decided I was like, oh, what am I going to present on? And I chose to present on forging anti-fragile confidence and creating hero bars for our leaders, because we're in times of change and it's really stressful for people. At the same time, I wanted people to celebrate all their successes and relate it to their wildly important goals. So I did that, and it was very, again, that's my passion about what I do. I love, presenting. I love doing workshops. I love the engagement. I love giving somebody just a teeny bit of wisdom to help them find their purpose and passion for what they do. So good connection, good engagement. So fast forward a couple weeks and somebody was having a conversation and they said, one of my staff did this, presentation, kind of workshop, and it had some good feedback. And so now we have a larger management meeting. It's an extended management meeting across a larger geographical area, and it'll probably be around 100 or more people. And they called me and asked me to present my topic. So my point of the story is that I said, there's no one knocking on your doors. And for me to create the passion of everything that I was like missing in the work that I was doing, I'm passionate about the current work I'm doing without this too. But for me to bring that flow and that tightrope balance to my life, I needed to make it happen for me. Mm-hmm. I didn't wait for it. So I asked, and then it presented itself. So celebration, because that was exciting, and I'm honored to do it for all of the amazing leadership for the people that I work with that are doing very, very, very important jobs keeping people safe. So
it was a good example of being so good that you could not be ignored.
So good, yeah, exactly. Thank you, Cal Newport.
Yeah, it's taking your passion. That's something that you are already doing, again, like with the podcast, and taking all this knowledge and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I can bring this to my organization. Mm-hmm. I see value in it. Mm-hmm. And so maybe others will see it. And then, wow, you presented it, and it was a good takeoff, and so good that it even went to the next level.
Next level.
Wow, just like,
whoa,
good
maybe we should rap on that.
What?
I like it.
But no, great job. Way to take your passion and bring it forward. And that's just an example of what you can do at your organization or wherever you're at in your life. It could be even with a group of friends. It could be with your family, sharing like this podcast, or sharing a good book, a documentary, something that spoke to you. If it spoke to you, share it with others. Although I would encourage not using the word should. Nobody likes to be should on.
I will.
Right?
No, don't should.
You should listen. You should listen to this. You should listen to that. Even like next level pie. You don't should. It's like, this is brings me value, and I like to listen to it. And if you feel so inspired, you can listen to it as well.
We want to bring you value.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it. Thank you for listening in, and we appreciate you.
Well, great job. And we look forward to hearing how your presentation goes at the next level with
Good Vibes Only.
Peace. Congratulations. And I want to say thank you for sticking with us and listening to this topic. But I want to leave you for some actionable steps that you can take immediately after listening to this podcast, or once you get into your home if you are driving. I want you to think about writing down your answers to these focused questions. What is that one thing that you can do such that by doing it, everything else will be easier or unnecessary? And then I'd like for you to schedule a time for that primary task that you just wrote. So those are your actionable steps. Thank you.